the all-console gamer. Today, I am going to be reviewing the Nintendo 64, the Nintendo Entertainment System. The Nintendo 64 came out originally in 1996, but a little bit of the backstory. Back in 92-93, a company by the name of SGI actually made the prototype hardware for the Nintendo 64 before it was named that, and they had actually expressed some interest in doing business with Sega. But Sega decided that SGI's equipment had too many issues with it, and Sega didn't want to take the time to iron it all out, so they decided that they would put their money in other projects, which inevitably got beat by this. So, basically what happened is SGI showed some interest in Nintendo. Nintendo showed a little bit of interest in SGI, and next thing you know, the Ultra 64. That's right, the Ultra 64 was a media sensation back in '93. Then they decided to change the name to the Nintendo 64 because obviously Nintendo bought the rights. So then in July of '96, the Nintendo 64 was actually released in Japan. And then in September of '96, it was released in the States. And then the rest of the world in '97. So now I remember playing the Nintendo 64 a lot. The Nintendo 64 is obviously the third console in the series for Nintendo. It's actually the 5th generation console altogether if you add in the Game Boys. The Nintendo 64 spawned several awesome games: the Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Super Mario Kart 64, Super Mario World 64, and who can forget GoldenEye? So I'm just going to kind of go over a couple things here real quick. Obviously the machine here. Now the Nintendo 64 was lacking a little bit in the RAM department, so that's why Nintendo came out with a 4 megabyte expansion pack, which just boom clicked right in the front. So that way you could expand the games. I know that a lot of the games, one of the games I can really remember that needed it was the Ocarina of Time. Had the expansion port here. So the Nintendo 64 was rather a revolutionary piece of machinery. For one, it did have the 4 controller ports right in the front. Now, also on the back here, the Nintendo 64, towards the end of its lifespan in about 2000, had an accessory made for it. It was called the Nintendo DD, or the disk drive. Now plugged right into the back. It didn't need an external power source like some of the other add-on accessories did for some of the other brands. What was really cool is it got all of its power right from this port here. So Nintendo really kind of thought ahead. Now, one of the main ways that they thought ahead was with the power port itself. I really thought that this was an excellent idea because it really eliminated the big clunky piece, or the big clunky end that would always attach to the walls. They slimmed it down, figured it out. I wish every other system would have figured this out earlier. But basically, just plugged right in. There's your converter. That's so much better than having this attached to the wall. So much better. So the Nintendo 64 was revolutionary for one, its graphics, and two, its controller. The controller was awesome because you had your standard directional D-pad, you had your A and B controllers and your start. Then you had these here. Now you could roll through these buttons here and use them as inventory items. You can set them. Now the other thing that made this controller stand out was the analog stick. On no other system for this time, as far as I know, in America, did they offer an analog stick. So this is really cool that they blended the D-pad and the analog stick together. Now this is one of the first systems, as far as I know, before the PlayStation, to actually offer a memory slot here. Now this is a memory card, and then also offered a rumble pack. This was absolutely cool because it helped, especially in the Ocarina of Time when you needed to find certain hidden items. You know, you just pop the rumble pack right in, and there you go. Now the Nintendo 64 was one of the last systems in the Nintendo lineup to actually offer game save packs right on the cartridge. So this was really neat because if you couldn't buy one of these, maybe you couldn't afford one, most of the games you could still save them right on there. Now, obviously, the only system that has that now is the Game Boy, all the way up to the DS. So, so these are a couple of the things here that I want to go over. I actually found these, I was going through my collection and found my Nintendo 64, carrying cases here. Now, I wanted to bring up one special game altogether because everybody remembers faithful old GoldenEye. This game was absolutely fantastic. This game, I believe, by far, arguably, is still one of the best first-person multiplayer games that you can purchase on any console, next to Halo. Halo probably being the most. I would have to say that Halo had the most copies sold. Excuse me. Yeah, definitely sold the most copies, but this game really brought the first-person shooter genre, right to everybody. This really mainstreamed it. So this game here, I really got to give props out to because it really helped bring the 64 a lot of fame. Then you had other great games too. Star Wars: Shadow of the Empire, which is a really good game. I don't have a whole lot of 64 games because I try to collect so many consoles. But that was my main overview, really, of the Nintendo 64. It's an absolute awesome console. Then I also have my Game Shark for the Nintendo 64. If anybody's ever used a Game Shark for it, you'll know that all of the codes are actually built in. You just pop your game right on top, kind of like a double-decker, boom, and you just stick it right on, you plug it in. Then you have all of your codes right in here. You just choose what game you want, what codes you want, press the start, and you're good. There's a little button right here that you press, it allows you to reset it. So that's pretty much it for the Nintendo 64. Obviously, the lifespan of the 64 lasted until about 2000. And then, then the PlayStation 1 came out. What's really funny about the Nintendo and the PlayStation 1 is at one time Nintendo and Sony were actually in partnership, and they were going to build a CD-based system, and Nintendo and Sony, they split ways because they couldn't really agree on it. So Sony had actually taken all of the technology to make a CD-based system, and they came out with the PlayStation, and they're still using that technology today from the PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3. So Sony should really thank Nintendo. Obviously, Nintendo's got it down with the Wii now. So this has been my review of the Nintendo 64. If you have a chance, pick one up. Definitely play it, enjoy it. And YouTube, until we meet again, this has been another episode of the All Console Gamer.